Ebrio patea, huérfano paralizado por llamarlo papá. Sheriff interviene. The neon lights of Sector 7 blinked in chaotic rhythm, painting the crowded streets of Nova Arcadia in shades of purple and green. The city floated on the edge of the Andromeda Belt, a sprawling human colony built among hollowed-out asteroids and artificial platforms. It was a place where humans rubbed shoulders with dozens of alien species, some friendly, some wary, and some downright dangerous. But for Kale, a young orphan boy confined to a hover chair, it was home. Kale had not always been confined. A mining accident 2 years ago had left his legs paralyzed, but it had not dimmed his curiosity or his sharp mind. He spent his days navigating the twisting corridors of the colony, delivering small packages for the local traders, tinkering with old circuits, and watching the stars swirl around the belt. Tonight, however, Kale had decided to explore the city in a way he rarely did. He wanted to visit a cantina he had heard about from other kids at the orphanage, a place full of music, light, and people from across the galaxy. The cantina's doors slid open with a hiss, and Kale rolled inside. The air smelled of alien spices, burnt oil, and the faint tang of recycled water. The room buzzed with conversation and laughter. Holographic advertisements flickered above, promising exotic drinks and gambling games. Kale's eyes widened as he saw beings of every imaginable form, some with translucent skin, others with scales, and a few that looked like walking plants. Kale navigated carefully through the crowd, keeping to the edges. He felt both nervous and excited. In his hover chair, he could move faster than most, but the crowded space meant he had to watch every turn. That was when he saw him. Ebrio. He was massive, even by alien standards, with thick arms, mottled green skin, and eyes that glowed faintly red under the neon lights. He leaned against the bar, holding a shimmering drink that bubbled and hissed. His presence alone seemed to make others step back, wary of his temper. Rumor in the orphanage had painted Ebrio as dangerous, but Kale didn't believe in rumors. Tonight, he wanted only to be brave. Kale rolled closer and spoke softly. "Hello?" "Sir?" His voice trembled slightly, but he smiled. I think you're my dad." The words slipped out before Kale could stop them. He had been joking, imagining what it would be like to have a family, a father figure. But to him, the city was lonely, and his imagination had grown wild in the endless nights aboard the colony. Ebrio froze mid-sip. The air seemed to shift. For a moment, no one moved. Then his glowing eyes narrowed, and he bellowed, his voice like a storm crashing across metal plates. "What did you say?" Kale's smile faltered. I said." Before he could finish, Ebrio lashed out. His massive hand struck the edge of Kale's hover chair, sending it skidding across the polished floor. Kale shouted as sparks flew from the chair's control panel. Patrons screamed and scattered, ducking under tables or vaulting over chairs. The holographic signs flickered wildly, reflecting the chaos. Kale's heart pounded. He tried to stop the chair with the control stick, but it jerked uncontrollably, spinning him toward a wall. Pain shot through his arms as he braced himself against the metal frame. Ebrio loomed over him, trembling with rage. "Do you think this is a joke?" he roared. Kale shook his head frantically. "No! Please, I didn't mean it." His voice cracked with fear. At that moment, a figure appeared in the doorway. A sharp beam of light cut through the smoky air, and the crowd fell silent. Sheriff Leora stepped into the cantina. She was human tall and imposing, with a cybernetic arm that glinted under the neon lights. Her presence carried authority, calm, controlled, and impossible to ignore. "Ebrio," she said, her voice steady but firm. "Step away from the child." Ebrio turned toward her, chest heaving, but something in Leora's eyes made him pause. She didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She simply stood there, radiating control. Slowly, Ebrio lowered his fists, though his shoulders remained tense. Kale's hand shook as he clutched the sides of his chair. He had never seen a human so powerful without raising a weapon, so commanding without anger. Leora knelt beside him, her cybernetic arm retracting to reveal gentle hands. "Are you hurt?" she asked softly.
No.
"I think I'm okay," Kale whispered, though his chest still ached and his hands were scraped. I just wanted to, I don't know." Leora smiled, a small, reassuring gesture.
It's okay, you're safe now, Ebrio grumbled, turning away and muttering in his native tongue.
Leora's calmness didn't just protect Kale. It seemed to dampen the alien's fury, slowing it like a tide against a seawall. "Take him outside," Leora said to a bartender. "And get a med kit." The bartender nodded, rushing forward as Kale followed Leora to the doors. Once outside, the night air hit his face. The city lights stretched endlessly, reflecting off the metallic surfaces of nearby platforms and the dark void beyond. Kale's heart began to slow, though adrenaline still pulsed through his veins. "Why did he get so angry?" Kale asked, still trembling. "Some species. They don't understand our ways," Leora said. "They don't know how we show respect. They react with force first." She looked down at him, her eyes softening. "Humans, however, protect the weak. That's what we do." Kale looked at her, awe and hope shining in his wide eyes. "You protect people like me, always," she said. "And one day maybe you'll protect others too." "Ah," Kale smiled, feeling warmth for the first time in weeks. Despite the chaos, despite the fear, he realized something important. Humans were not just survivors. They were guardians. Even in a galaxy full of danger, cruelty, and misunderstanding, humans stood foremost, protecting, guiding, and inspiring those around them. The sirens of the city began to hum in the distance, announcing the presence of other lawkeepers. Ebrio had disappeared back into the shadows of the cantina, and the night returned to its usual rhythm. But Kale would not forget this moment. The towering alien, the chaos of the crowd, and the calm human who stood as a shield between fear and safety. Hovering in his chair, Kale gazed at the stars, distant and infinite. For the first time, he felt a spark of hope. Maybe one day he would not just survive in the galaxy. Maybe, just maybe, he would help make it a better place. The neon lights of Nova Arcadia's Sector 7 flickered faintly under the constant hum of hovercrafts and city machinery. Kale was back in his small room at the orphanage, his hoverchair parked carefully beside the bed. He traced the edges of his hands, feeling the scraped metal of the chair that had been bent during the cantina incident. The pain had mostly faded, but the memory of Ebrio's anger burned like a quiet fire. He couldn't stop thinking about Sheriff Leora. Her calmness, her strength, the way she had stood between him and the alien. Humans like her? They were rare. They didn't just survive the galaxy, they made it safer, better, stronger. Kale wanted to understand her more, wanted to know why humans could stand so firm in the face of danger. Meanwhile, in the darker alleys of the Cantina district, Ebrio sat slumped against a wall, The neon light glinted off his mottled green skin, highlighting the tension in his massive frame. The rage that had consumed him earlier had faded, replaced by a dull, confused frustration. He muttered to himself, replaying the incident over and over. "They called me a father?" he said in his rough, guttural language. "Why? What do they see in me?" Ebrio had lived a hard life, one filled with rejection and misunderstanding. In his species, anger was often the first response to confusion, and social bonds were fragile. He had never known kindness, never known trust, and yet he had glimpsed it in the human sheriff, the one who had stopped him without raising a weapon. Back at the precinct, Sheriff Leora prepared to investigate. The cantina incident was more than a public disturbance. It was a potential threat to the peace of the sector. Leora reviewed surveillance footage, her cybernetic arm moving with precise efficiency across multiple screens. She noted Ebrio's reactions, the patterns in his movements, and the way he responded to the environment. Leora didn't just see a dangerous alien. She saw a mind in distress, a being shaped by circumstances and history. She understood that brute force alone wouldn't solve the problem. Humans had something unique: empathy paired with action, insight paired with courage. The sheriff activated a small AI assistant embedded in her arm. The AI could analyze alien physiology, predict behavioral patterns, and translate unfamiliar languages in real time. "Show me everything about Ebrio," she commanded. Within seconds, the AI compiled a dossier. Ebrio had come to Nova Arcadia 5 years ago. He had no permanent residence, had been involved in multiple minor altercations, and had been expelled from several workstations due to aggression. But there was a pattern. These incidents weren't random acts of malice. They were often triggered by miscommunication, misunderstanding, or perceived disrespect. Leora leaned back, her mind working through possibilities. Humans protect the weak. Maybe the weak in Ebrio's life never had protection. Maybe he just doesn't understand how to trust it. She tapped her cybernetic arm thoughtfully.
"We'll need to teach him." Kale, meanwhile, couldn't sleep. He wheeled himself to the small window of his room and stared out at the starry expanse.
Ships glimmered as they moved between colonies and stations. He thought about Ebrio, about the fear he had felt, and about the sheriff who had protected him. A spark of determination grew inside him. "I don't want anyone to feel as helpless as I did," Kale whispered. His mind raced with ideas. He had always loved tinkering, building small gadgets from scraps. What if he could create something that could help communicate, help mediate, something that could prevent misunderstandings before they became dangerous? The next morning, Kale got to work. Using old circuits, discarded AI modules, and his own ingenuity, he began constructing a small AI companion, one designed to understand emotion, predict reactions, and translate intentions across species. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. He named it Lumo, after the faint glow it emitted when activated. At the same time, Sheriff Leora visited the cantina to gather more details. The patrons were still shaken, but eager to help. Many described Ebrio's sheer size, his sudden outburst, and the fear that had spread through the room. Leora took careful notes, her mind always looking for patterns, always looking for the human advantage. Observation, deduction, and calm action. She approached the bartender, a tall alien with long limbs and translucent skin. "I need the full account of the incident," she said. "Every detail matters." The bartender nodded nervously. He got angry when the boy said something personal, something about being his father. I don't know why. He just exploded. Leora scribbled notes. Did anyone try to calm him? The bartender shook his head. No one dared. Only you could stop him. The sheriff allowed herself a small nod. This wasn't just about stopping violence. It was about understanding it. Understanding Ebrio's triggers could prevent future incidents and, more importantly, save lives. Later that evening, Leora found Kale in the orphanage's small workshop. The AI companion sat on the table, wires connecting to a half-built hover pad. Kale looked up as she entered. You're building something, Leora observed. Yes, Kyle said, eyes bright. I want to help. If anyone else doesn't understand, maybe this can help. Lumo can. Maybe it can translate feelings or show what someone really means. Leora studied the small machine. It was crude, yes, but she could see the spark of genius. Humans had a way of combining curiosity, empathy, and invention to solve problems no one else could. This could work, she said finally, but it will need testing. And Ebrio, he will need guidance. He doesn't know how to read others, and he doesn't know how to control his reactions. Kale nodded. I want to try. I want to make things better. Leora smiled faintly. Then we'll do it together. Humans protect the weak, and sometimes that means teaching even those who seem dangerous. Meanwhile, Ebrio wandered through the city, his thoughts heavy. He had never known patience or understanding. The memory of the boy's fear lingered, and with it, a strange feeling, remorse. But the anger still pulsed in his chest, unpredictable, uncontrollable. Leora tracked him quietly, observing from a distance. She understood that forcing him into compliance would only make things worse. Humans had a strength not just of arms, but of strategy, empathy, and patience. She would guide him, not break him. That night, Kale activated Lumo for the first time. The small AI's glow filled the room as it processed data from Kale's sensors, predicting emotional responses and translating his tentative test phrases into Ebrio's language. Kale spoke softly, practicing phrases that could calm anger and foster understanding. This is amazing, Leora said, watching the AI flicker and respond. Humans don't just survive. We adapt, we create. And sometimes, we save the galaxy, one misunderstanding at a time. Kale smiled, hope filling his chest. He didn't just want to survive anymore. He wanted to change things. To make the galaxy a place where no child felt helpless, where misunderstandings didn't lead to fear or violence, and where humans could shine as protectors and innovators. And somewhere in the shadows, Ebrio listened, unaware that the first step toward understanding, and perhaps redemption, was already beginning. The next morning, Nova Arcadia shimmered under the pale light of its twin suns. The city was alive with movement. Hovercrafts zipped past metal towers, merchants called out their wares, and children played along the edge of the docks, unaware of the dangers lurking in the shadows. Kale wheeled himself to the orphanage workshop, Lumo humming softly beside him. The small AI emitted a gentle, pulsing glow, like a heartbeat. Kale had spent the last day feeding it data about emotions, phrases, and behaviors. He was ready to test it, but he needed a subject who could understand, or who desperately needed to understand. That subject, unfortunately, was Ebrio. Leora had tracked Ebrio to an abandoned maintenance hangar, a place where he often went to be alone. She approached carefully, scanning the area for threats. She could see him pacing, his massive frame hunched, glowing eyes darting back and forth. Even from a distance, the tension in the air was palpable. "Kale," she said over her comlink, "are you ready? Remember, this is about communication, not confrontation. Lumo will help, but you need to remain calm and clear." I'm ready," Kale replied, though his voice trembled. He clutched the small AI, feeling its warmth against his palms. He knew this was a turning point, not just for Ebrio, but for himself. Kale and Leora entered the hangar, the door sliding open with a hiss. The metal walls reflected the neon light from the city, casting long shadows. Ebrio froze as they stepped in, his glowing eyes narrowing. "Kyle," he said roughly, his voice echoing off the walls. "What are you doing here? Did the human send you?" Kale wheeled closer, speaking slowly and clearly. "I didn't come because anyone sent me. I came because I want to understand you."
And I think you can understand me too. Ebrio's brow furrowed. Understand?
"I don't need anyone to understand me." His voice rose, but the trembling in his hands betrayed the confusion underneath. I just want to be left alone." Leora stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Ebrio, hiding and lashing out doesn't make life better. Humans don't solve problems with anger. We solve them with understanding. And we protect those who cannot protect themselves." Kale activated Lumo. The small AI lifted into the air, its glow brightening as it scanned Ebrio. Soft, melodic tones emitted from its core, translating Kale's words into Ebrio's native language. The AI's interface projected subtle visual cues, images of emotions and intentions, to help Ebrio see Kale's true meaning. "See?" Kale said, pointing to Lumo's display. "I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to show you what I mean. I want us to understand each other." Ebrio hesitated. His glowing eyes flicked between Kale and the AI. He had never experienced communication like this. Words, tone, and emotion all presented clearly, without misinterpretation. His anger wavered. You? You made this?" he asked, his voice quieter. Kale nodded. "Yes. Lumo can help us. It shows how we feel, so we don't hurt each other by mistake." For the first time, Ebrio's massive shoulders relaxed slightly. He took a slow breath, then another. I don't know how to do this," he admitted, almost whispering. "You don't have to know everything," Kale said softly. "We'll figure it out together." Over the next hour, Kale and Leora guided Ebrio through simple exercises. Lumo displayed images of emotions, anger, fear, sadness, happiness, and translated Kale's phrases into Ebrio's language. The AI also predicted Ebrio's likely reactions, giving him a small window to pause before acting. At first, Ebrio struggled. His hands clenched, his breathing quickened, and he made a few sharp movements that made Kale flinch. But Leora's calm presence and Kale's patient guidance gradually helped him. He began to see that humans weren't just strong. They were thoughtful, deliberate, and protective. You really protect people?" Ebrio asked, his voice trembling. "Even someone like me?" "Yes," Leora said firmly. "Humans protect those who need it, no matter what. That's who we are. That's our strength." Kyle smiled. "And we can teach others to do the same. Lumo is just the start. You can learn too." Ebrio looked at the small AI companion and then at Kale. Something in his eyes softened. He lowered his massive hands and nodded slowly. "Maybe I can try." As the evening shadows fell across the hangar, a new bond began to form. Kale guided Ebrio through more exercises, showing him how to pause before reacting. how to interpret gestures, and how to recognize fear or confusion in others. Lumo continued to assist, glowing brighter with each successful translation. By the end of the night, Ebrio had taken his first conscious steps toward understanding. He still struggled, still flinched when he felt cornered, but he had learned something vital. Humans didn't just react. They reasoned, they protected, and they inspired.
You're
Different, Ebrio admitted finally, his voice rough but sincere. I thought all humans were weak, that you would just yell, or fight, or run. But you care, even for a child like him. He glanced at Kale. Even for him, Kale's smile widened. We care because we can. Because we choose to. That's what makes us humans. Leora observed quietly, her cybernetic arm retracting as she smiled faintly. This was exactly why humans stood foremost in the galaxy. Strength alone was not enough. Intelligence, compassion, and moral courage, the combination made them exceptional. And, in guiding Ebrio, humans had begun to change not only him but the future of the colony itself. Over the next few days, Kale, Leora, and Ebrio worked together. Ebrio slowly learned to recognize situations that could trigger his anger, and Kale taught him to use Lumo to mediate his emotions. Leora monitored from a distance, intervening only when necessary. One afternoon, Kale asked Ebrio about his past, gently probing the experiences that had shaped him. Ebrio hesitated, then began to speak, his words halting but honest. He described a childhood filled with misunderstanding, a culture that valued aggression over patience, and countless encounters where kindness was rare. Kale listened without judgment, and Lumo recorded the emotional patterns, helping Ebrio see connections between his past pain and his present reactions. Slowly, Ebrio began to understand. His anger was a shield, but it was also a chain. And with humans' guidance, he could begin to break it. You, humans, are really something else, he said one evening, exhaustion in his voice. You don't just survive. You lift others.
You teach. You
Guide. Yes, Leora said quietly, and that's why we will always stand foremost, not because we are stronger in body, but because we are strong in mind, heart, and spirit. That is what makes humans extraordinary. Ebrio nodded, though tears glimmered in his glowing eyes. I want to be better. For the first time, I think I can be. Kale felt a surge of pride. In this moment, he realized something profound. Even the most broken beings could change when shown understanding, patience, and guidance. Humans were not just survivors. They were catalysts for growth, peace, and hope. As the twin suns set over Nova Arcadia, the hangar glowed softly with Lumo's light. A paralyzed orphan, a troubled alien, and a human sheriff stood together, proof that the galaxy could be shaped not by violence but by empathy, intelligence, and courage. The first step toward true understanding had been taken, and Kale knew that tomorrow they would take another, and then another, until fear and anger no longer ruled, and humans' steadfast example shone brightly across the stars. The city of Nova Arcadia buzzed with life under the pale glow of its twin suns. Even in the quieter districts, hovercrafts hummed overhead, and merchants shouted their wares across crowded platforms. But somewhere beyond the glittering towers, in a dimly lit industrial sector, danger was stirring. Ebrio had been learning quickly. With Kale and Leora guiding him, he had begun to control his anger, to pause before reacting, and to understand the intentions of others. Lumo's soft glow followed him everywhere. projecting helpful cues and reminders. Still, no lesson could prepare him for what was coming. It started with a tremor in the metal floor beneath the industrial platforms. Sparks flew from malfunctioning machinery, and the hum of engines became a deafening roar. A gang of scavenger aliens known for raiding traders and attacking weak or isolated beings had set their sights on the district. Reports indicated that they had already taken hostages and were armed with stolen energy rifles. Leora received the message first. "This is not a drill," she said to Cale and Ebrio, her cybernetic arm glinting in the early evening light. "They're dangerous, but it's our responsibility to protect the innocent, and Ebrio, this is your chance to use what you've learned." Ebrio's massive shoulders tensed. Fear and doubt flickered in his glowing eyes. I've never fought real combat before," he admitted. "I'll just make things worse." "Not this time. Not this time." "You don't have to fight like a brute. You have Lumo. You have what we've taught you. And I'm going to help too." Leora nodded. "We're going in together. But remember, humans protect the weak. That's our greatest strength. We don't attack recklessly. We plan, we adapt, and we lead." The trio approached the industrial district cautiously. Smoke and fire flickered from a few damaged platforms, and the metallic smell of burning circuits hung heavy in the air. Scavenger alien drones patrolled the area, their sensors sweeping for movement. Leora gestured for Ebrio and Cale to stay low. Using Lumo, Cale sent out small signals to project images and sounds, designed to confuse the drones and slow their advance. Sparks flew from the malfunctioning drones as they misread Lumo's holographic projections, buying the humans precious time. "See?" Cale whispered to Ebrio. "You don't have to fight alone. Use your mind as well as your strength." Ebrio nodded, taking slow, deep breaths. His glowing eyes flicked from Lumo to Kyle to the approaching drones. He realized that anger alone would not help anyone. Patience, observation, and strategy, these were what humans excelled at. The first real confrontation came near a collapsed conveyor bridge. A gang of scavengers had cornered a group of stranded traders, their energy rifles aimed menacingly. One of the aliens spotted Leora and raised its weapon. Without hesitation, Leora activated a pulse from her cybernetic arm. It emitted an electromagnetic field that disarmed the rifles without harming the scavengers. Sparks flew as the weapon short-circuited, clattering harmlessly to the ground. Ebrio's jaw tightened. He had never seen such control before. How humans could neutralize danger without causing unnecessary harm. Following Leora's lead, he stepped forward, projecting his massive presence. The scavengers flinched instinctively. Cale activated Lumo's next function, a real-time translation of intention. The AI projected visual cues over the scavengers, showing that the humans and Ebrio did not intend to harm anyone, just to protect the traders. Confusion flickered across the aliens' faces. "This is different," Ebrio muttered under his breath. "They expect us to attack, but you don't. You show them another way."
Yes, Cale said softly. "This is how humans lead."
By example, not by brute force. Ebrio moved closer to the hostages, using Lumo to monitor the emotional reactions of both the traders and the scavengers. His massive hands were careful, precise. He lifted debris to create barriers, guided the traders to safety, and even helped some of the smaller aliens move out of harm's way. The scavengers, realizing they were being outmaneuvered without a single casualty, began to hesitate. Their leader, a tall alien with jagged scales, bared its teeth and tried to regain control. But Ebrio and Leora worked together seamlessly, Cale sending Lumo's signals to predict the gang's movements, Leora controlling the environment with her cybernetic enhancements, and Ebrio projecting both physical and moral authority. Slowly, the scavengers' aggression faded. One by one, they dropped their weapons, unable to resist the humans' calm, strategic dominance. It wasn't fear that won the day. It was the clear demonstration of intelligence, restraint, and protective instinct. Once the scavengers were secured and the traders safe, Leora approached Ebrio. "Do you see?" she asked. "You didn't need to fight blindly. You didn't need to hurt anyone. You just needed to understand and act wisely." Ebrio's massive shoulders sagged with relief. He had faced real danger, and he had succeeded, not through anger, but through guidance and careful thought. I didn't think I could do it," he admitted, "but I did. And it didn't feel wrong." Kale smiled. "You did it because you learned. You listened. You acted for others. That's what makes humans humans." Ebrio looked at him, a faint warmth in his glowing eyes. I think I'm beginning to understand. You... Humans really are something else." Leora placed a reassuring hand on Ebrio's massive arm. "And now, you're something else too. You've taken the first real steps toward becoming someone better. This is just the beginning." That night, the city of Nova Arcadia settled under the twin suns' fading glow. The rescued traders expressed their gratitude, the scavengers were taken into custody, and the industrial district began the slow process of repair. But more importantly, a bond had been forged. A bond between Kale, the paralyzed orphan, Leora, the steadfast sheriff, and Ebrio, the massive alien who had learned that strength alone was nothing without wisdom and compassion. Kale wheeled himself to a small balcony overlooking the city. Lumo floated beside him, its glow steady and reassuring. He watched the lights shimmer across the metallic platforms, reflecting in the water channels below. "Do you think things will really change?" he asked softly. "They already have," Leora said, stepping beside him. "You've shown someone who was lost how to find a better way. You've shown that even the smallest humans can guide the largest aliens, and that is how the galaxy begins to change." Ebrio appeared behind them, his massive form casting a shadow over the balcony. He lowered himself to sit carefully beside Kale, a gesture of trust he had never offered anyone before. "I thank you for everything, for showing me how to be more than my anger, for showing me humans can protect and guide, not just survive." Kyle reached out, touching Ebrio's hand gently. "We can all be better," he said. "And when we work together, we can do amazing things." Ebrio nodded, a faint glow flickering across his scales. For the first time, he truly understood the human strength, not in weapons, not in raw power, but in heart, mind, and the courage to protect others. The night deepened, and Nova Arcadia's lights twinkled like stars brought close to the city. Somewhere beyond the visible horizon, ships continued their endless journey across the galaxy. Kyle, Leora, and Ebrio knew the universe would always hold danger, conflict, and uncertainty, but they also knew this: humans could shine in the darkest places. They could guide the lost, protect the vulnerable, and inspire those who had never known kindness. And with Ebrio learning that lesson, Kale realized something profound. The galaxy didn't just need strong humans. It needed humans willing to lead with heart, with intellect, and with courage. Lumo glowed softly between them, a symbol of human innovation and the power of understanding. Tomorrow there would be new challenges, new conflicts, and new misunderstandings, but for tonight, the city was safe, the people were protected, and the humans had proven once again why they were foremost in the galaxy. Kale leaned back, exhausted but elated. Ebrio beside him, Leora watching over them, and Lumo glowing softly. This was more than survival. This was hope. And in Nova Arcadia, under the twin suns, hope had never shone brighter.